Of storylines. They have a new head coach, as you know. Dak is back from injury. George Pickens is joining CeeDee Lamb as another target. And Micah Parsons still looking for a new deal. Here's owner Jerry Jones on that situation, or should I say owner GM.
Contracts are 4 or 5 years. Okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car. Seriously. Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott.
On the scene in Oxnard, California, Cowboys camp, where it is never a dull moment, we find our reporter Todd Archer. Okay, first things first, Jerry was off there. Parsons missed only 4 games, not 6. What's the latest on the contract talks between him and Dallas?
Yeah, Hannah, really not a lot there at the moment. Stephen Jones told us that he would like to start getting some discussions going while they're out here in Oxnard. They have a history of doing deals with players while they're here in training camp. But for right now with Micah, we sit and wait. The good news, he's here, he's on campus. We don't know if he's going to practice tomorrow or if this will become some sort of hold-in when he's going to be at meetings and maybe watching practice and see what he does from there. That's what he did in June at the mini camp. I'll use another line that Jerry used today on us where he said he's used to dangling participles when it comes to these contracts. He's not going to let it bother him. Jerry's unaffected by it. We'll see if Mike is unaffected by it. But so far, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they have yet to speak with his agent.
Wow, that is hard to believe, honestly. You know who was affected by it, apparently, or at least reacted to it? That was J.J. Watt. All right, so here is what he tweeted after the press conference. And he said, anytime you can publicly take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rushers simultaneously right before the season begins, you just got to take it. Nothing makes guys want to fight for you more than hearing how upset you are that they got hurt while fighting for you. And then Micah Parsons retweeted J.J. Watt's post. So, I mean, Todd, listen, you're there. What is the vibe about this situation?
You know, back in the day, the Red Sox, when they had Manny Ramirez, they would say, this is Manny being Manny. I think some of this is just Jerry being Jerry, right? As someone who's covered Jerry for more than 20 years, this is how he rolls. This is what he does. Yes, should he not use some of the names and mention that Dak missed 9 games last year and CeeDee Lamb missed 2 games when he got hurt and Trayvon Diggs has played in just 13 games since he signed his contract? Probably so, but in Jerry's mind, it's really just the truth. And if you're signing these guys to big-time deals, sometimes it's just not going to work out the way you want it to all the time.
Well, this is also the truth that Micah Parsons does not have a history of being injured. He missed only 1 game his rookie season and didn't miss any games in years 2 and 3. Todd Archer, stay tuned. Thank you. Dallas, meanwhile, 6-1 to win the division, 25-1 to win the NFC, 50-1 to win the Super Bowl at ESPN Bet Sportsbook. All numbers that they haven't had in more than a decade. Their 29-season drought without an NFC championship game appearance is by far the longest active streak. But Tyler Smith says Super Bowl's the goal.
Super Bowl champions. That's always the expectation. So, yeah.
I think that's a realistic goal.
I think it is a realistic goal because we can win the Super Bowl. Why not? Why can't we win? Do you think it's unrealistic?
You think the roster is in place to do that?
I think it is in place to do that, yes, sir.
You know who's here to keep it real? NFL analyst Mina Kimes. Now, obviously, what are we, right? Late July, Super Bowl is the goal of every team, but what are realistic expectations for the Cowboys?
First, I'll say I do not begrudge Tyler Smith for saying that. I mean, he kind of has to say that. Yeah. I would say a wild card team, Hannah, is actually plausible. And that in itself, I think, is certainly obviously a leap from last year. But I think it's realistic given the improvements they've made with the passing offense, a trade for George Pickens. I do think this has the potential to be one of the more explosive passing attacks in the league. Obviously, Dak Prescott back healthy. And then just getting players back on defense. They were so banged up last year. People forget the secondary opposite Micah Parsons. Run defense remains a pretty significant concern for me, and obviously the difficulty of the division looms large. But I do think this team will be competitive and be playing meaningful games at the end of the season.
Yeah, that run defense, and we'll see how well they're able to run the football as well. All right, meanwhile, we had some news out of Titans camp today. Quarterback Will Levis has opted to undergo shoulder surgery that will end his season before it starts. He was injured last season, was hoping to rest and rehab, and that would do the trick, but he did feel some discomfort at camp, so he decided on the procedure. So now we definitively know Cam Ward is going to start this season. So what can Brian Callahan and the Titans do to help him?
I think leaning into Cam Ward's strengths, of which there are many. There's a reason why he was the first quarterback taken overall, first pick overall. But one thing in particular that I really loved in his college tape was his ability to throw over the middle of the field, which is something that young quarterbacks sometimes struggle with. But Cam Ward in college was first in QBR, throwing between the numbers, first led all FBS passers and throws over 20 yards over the middle of the field, completions rather. And I think that's something that Brian Callahan will lean into, particularly with the skill players at his disposal. It's a part of the field that I think Calvin Ridley, in particular, the receiver, excels at. So I think, figuring out, okay, what are the parts of his offense that Ward is comfortable in, getting him to play on time, and opening up that part of the field will help him his rookie season.
It'll be a baptism by fire because in week 1, they face the Denver Broncos, and that defense that you have ranked at the very top of the NFL. A developing story in the NFL, rookie defensive end Shemar Stewart did not show up to Bengals camp as his contract holdout continues. He's the only first-round pick that hasn't signed. His representatives and the Bengals apparently can't agree on contract language that could void guarantees. On the scene is our Bengals reporter, Ben Baby. Bengals camp taking place in Cincinnati. What's the latest with Stewart and when we might see the rookie on the field?
Hannah, that time might take the amount of time to swim across the Ohio and back. And Hannah, let me tell you something. I'm not a very good swimmer. And in talking to people today about that situation, I get the sense that Stewart is willing to wait as long as possible to get this deal done. He wants something that is fair. And the Bengals had a lot to say about this situation. Team president Mike Brown said it was foolishness given what was at stake and kind of the language regarding that void guarantee. And Bengals director of player personnel Duke Tobin said that Shemar might be getting some bad advice on the situation and that the Bengals might be the last team about to get this clause into their contracts. However, in talking to a source about these negotiations, they've been steadfast that Shemar is just looking for what is fair in this deal. In fact, if there was a concession to be made, they might be willing to accept that language, such as potentially something pertaining to the signing bonus. But so far, that is yet to be seen. So we'll see if the two sides can find middle ground as the veterans are set to report tomorrow.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You led me right into it. I know you are so tired of hearing this question, but four-time Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson still without a new deal. So what kind of progress or lack thereof has there been with Hendrickson?
And I'll give you a little bit of a surprise today. We actually got a little bit of news, and that is team president Mike Brown, who is known to keep it straight on all these things. He said, I think a deal gets done. And it was interesting. He talked about the situation, and he said, listen, Trey can be hard to deal with sometimes during these negotiations. We've been through this with him before. He might get emotional at times, but there is one thing that is consistent, that we get these deals done. And he said that an offer has been made to Hendrickson regarding a potential deal that goes past the final year of his contract, which he is set to enter. Now, about the timing and whether that's going to fit what Hendrickson is looking for, that remains to be seen, because he's been steadfast throughout this process that he's looking for a long-term deal with guaranteed money. But everybody that we spoke to today was adamant. They understand what Trey means to this team. Now, will they get something done before camp starts? I think that's what we'll all be waiting on as they get rolling with that first practice right behind me on Wednesday.
Yeah, he's set to make almost $16 million in 2025, final year of his deal. Great player, a really important leader on that defense, which has struggled. Ben, thank you. Mina Kimes is back with us. So, Mina, can you just put this situation in perspective for us in light of the fact that the Bengals do have a new defensive coordinator in Al Golden? How critical is it for these guys to be on the field during camp?
I think it's really important for the rookie, Shemar Stewart, less so for Hendrickson, though it's very important for him to be on the field when the regular season begins because he was responsible for really all of their pass rush last year. We have talked about that a lot. That gives him some leverage. But as far as training camp goes, Hendrickson is a pro, whereas Stewart is not only a rookie, he's a very raw rookie, Hannah. I mean, this was discussed a lot when he was drafted in the first round, but he arrives in the NFL with remarkably little sack production for a first-round pass rusher. So one would have hoped that they would have had the offseason to help bring him online, because there is going to be a bit of a gap for him going from college to the league, and for him to not play, I think could lead to a slow start. We have seen that, and I think it's a real problem for Cincinnati, because outside of Hendrickson, we don't really know where the pass rush is coming from with the Bengals, and one would hope it would be Stewart.
Yeah, and slow start, by the way, that's been the Bengals' MO the last few seasons, and it's really hurt them. All right, go back to the NFL, where the Detroit Lions are coming off a season